While your dissertation chair and your committee members are your guides through this process, there are others on campus who can support you. You can develop your own personal advisory board, which can consist of your peers and staff at CGU, and even people beyond CGU's borders. Here are some suggestions on others you may wish to add to your advising board of directors.
So in terms of putting together an advising team, in general, you do want to start with the person who's been formally assigned as your advisor, because they are one of the experts in your specific field, so whatever that might be. You can certainly put together a team, and of course it can go beyond the faculty too. I mean, there are people at the Writing Center who can be advisors, people at the Preparing Future Faculty program who can be advisors, and Career Development who can be advisors. You also, though, should, if you find a professor who either you know from, for example, looking at their curriculum vitae, which we call the CV, which is the listing of publications. If you find someone whose work is of particular interest to you, you might try to talk to that person. If you find someone who's had a career of a sort that's particularly interesting to you, not everyone wants to be a professor, but not all of our professors have only been professors, so you might find someone who's worked at the UN and you want to work at the UN. Another way to find a good person is if you do take a class from somebody and you feel like they're very helpful to you in some way, because their way of thinking helps you think better, or their passion is shared by you. Anything like that can be a connection that can help you put together an advising team. And you may need different advisors for different things. I mean, someone who can tell you exactly which coursework to take is not the same as somebody who can tell you what the best conferences are in your field necessarily. So you want to think about the different kinds of knowledge that you want to gain from advisors.
What I tell my students is they should talk to as many faculty as they can. The more opinions they get, the better off they're going to be. People may see them differently, people may see their strengths differently. I am one person and one bit of advice. I'm not a fan of someone going to 35 different people and then coming to me and saying, well, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said this. But I do think they should work with other faculty. I think it's good to talk to other faculty in their classes, especially around coursework. Within CGU Career Services, the Dean of Students, we have great people in many offices. If a student does not visit Career Services, does not talk to the Dean of Students, they're paying for services they're not using. The Writing Center, another thing they're paying for, they should use that. The university is set up with the idea of fostering success. So look through the CGU Student Services site, look at all the resources that you are paying for. It's like going to a buffet and only visiting the meat line but not going to the salad or the dessert line.
I often say that I think a lot of the best learning and mentoring comes outside of the classroom with your peers that are going through the exact same thing that you are. And in contrast to sort of a model of competition, here it's collaboration. It's how many other students are you working with? Have you practiced this with other students? If you're struggling with this, have you reached out to someone in your study group? Can I help put you with someone that is also struggling? So your advisor can be a good source for that, because they're looking across a lot of students and they may know, there's another student over here that's facing the exact same challenges. Let's see if we can connect you and you can talk about some ways to support one another. So I absolutely think peer mentoring is a fantastic supplement to, and so important to what you can get from your faculty mentors.
There's a kind of peer-to-peer mentoring that happens, especially between more advanced graduate students and those who are, a year or two or three behind them. This can happen in lots of different ways. This can happen in informal lunch groups or in kind of reading groups. It can happen through more formal mentorships that some departments set up. It can happen just in very informal friendships and grabbing somebody and say, hey, what was your experience? How did you do exams? How did you do this? Now, you always have to be a little bit careful with that, not to get bad advice. And sometimes rules and regulations change, and older students maybe went through a different process. So you shouldn't only rely on other students. But some of those peer relationships and peer mentoring can be really crucial, and they build the kinds of relationships and networks that you'll carry through your entire career.
I think the peer effect is what we call it in the academic literature, is really powerful, and students need to build as much of a peer network as possible to be successful. When I was a graduate student, it arose organically because I was with a cohort who took a lot of the same classes together. At CGU, it doesn't always happen so organically because students have different schedules. Many students are working full-time. And so when it hasn't happened organically, I've tried to build that, at least among my own advisees, by having a writing group that meets every month. And through that writing group, students give each other feedback and also share announcements about jobs and contacts and leads for potential either professional opportunities or professional development opportunities. So in cases where it doesn't emerge organically, then I've tried to kind of help provide some sort of support to build the peer community. And then finally, the people in the office, the support staff in the office of the academic unit are really, really good people to know in terms of registering for courses, financial aid, how to get in touch with a faculty member who may not be responding to you. I mean, they know all of this. So get to know those folks in the office.
CGU is a small university, right? But we're surrounded by many other universities, and we're surrounded by many other colleges with very high-profile faculty. So I encourage students to make relationships with faculty at the undergraduate colleges and do so at UCR and UCLA, USC, on the subject matter of interest, but through sitting in on classes or through various other means, and building out their network from there. And we regularly have people on committees from other universities, from other colleges, to essentially round out that set of skills and that set of teams. So in political science, we have statistics series that everyone must take, right? And everyone goes through those. And so I would look at those as opportunities to see who's in your cohort and make connections with them. I would attend activities on campus, get to know people. So we have a qualifying exam process, right? That is quite stressful to students, and it's one where they study for months at a time to overcome the exam, and that is a perfect opportunity to work with people in your field to study, right? For emotional support, for study support, to bounce ideas off each other. And I encourage that very much to look for building relationships at that point. We offer a lot of opportunities for collaboration within the classroom too, so writing a paper together, for example. I encourage as much interaction with the cohort as possible.
Students can learn a lot from more advanced students. They can sometimes, tell them the things that we can't tell them, give them advice. But that's a double-edged sword. I mean, sometimes it can be helpful, but they also sometimes get advice that is not accurate. And so I think it's also really important on the key things to double check what you hear from your peers. Come back, double check with your advisor or other people, because rumors come and they can take on a life of their own, and sometimes they're wrong and the advice can be bad. So pay attention to what is in your student handbook, what is online officially, what your advisor said. So, enjoy your colleagues who have been here longer and gain some insights from them, oftentimes about the process, and yes, you will survive.
We always have the program coordinator who usually can help you with administrative steps, the forms you needed, all those other little stuff, to get you go through the program. And like I said, although you're working with your advisor, but other faculty within CGU could be, because naturally, even our discipline is very interdisciplinary in nature. if you especially like in data science, you usually apply your data science skills in a domain. That domain could be in marketing, could be in health, right? Could be in many other areas. So in this case, a domain expert that you can try to reach out, which CGU has a lot of those experts. And so you can ask your advisor, say, what are experts you can recommend, or you can read other profiles and to figure out, say, could this person be helpful with my research? And then you can reach out to them. So a lot of times you will be surprised how people will respond, because if you do a research in the areas of a researcher who's interested in, they usually will respond pretty well. Example would be like one of my doctoral students who's going to probably defend in summer, and his dissertation is in renewable energy and analytics, and also has a GIS component. So we have a GIS faculty, Brian Hilton, actually helped him with the GIS components. And then he was, in the process, he was reading a book. Then it was a faculty, not from the University of Redlands, and wrote that book. And I said, I happen to know that faculty. I think he's going to be a additional really good resource for you. Then it just happened he went to did the presentation at the conferences, and that faculty was there. So he knew the name from the book. So he went to tell the faculty, and the faculty gave him a lot of good input. So eventually that faculty is on his committee. So those are, definitely, from a relation that can help you in your final dissertation process. Definitely looking for expertise in the research area.
A lot of times they will know who somebody might be who's an expert or who knows more about the topic, and your department has to agree. But I've been on lots of committees where people have outside readers and outside people, so it's not like so unusual at all. So, but the problem is budgetary. Often, you have to pay the people, but a lot of times you don't. A lot of people say, no, it's okay. But so that may be a part of it as well, But yeah, students may not know that.
Your advisor is there as a kind of a hub to provide you with resources, with information, and so even though something may not necessarily be purely within the academic realm, there may be worthwhile to have a conversation with your advisor so that they could provide you with advice on, resources around the university, like our health center, and also connect you with other opportunities. For the most part, all the advisors have worked with at least 100 students over the past few years. And so they come in with a great deal of experience, and it'd be advantageous to tap into that experience.
If they're looking to do stuff about career, I send them to the Career Center and utilize that. I tell them to also utilize, their other students. Masters, utilize PhD students, because they're a different skill set. What they're getting out of the program is really two different things. A PhD student is usually looking to be a professor and be more research-based, write in journals, versus a master's student who's more career-based, looking to move up in their position or change careers. So I make sure that they can connect and learn from each other. I think that's really important. And what's great about CISAT is that our concentration courses have PhD and masters in them, so they have that mix. Because sometimes people need help with writing technical stuff for resumes, and we have other students who have done that, so they can help things. If they need help with personal issues, the dean of students, we have a couple of alumni who actually teach for us, they're adjuncts, but I also send students to them because they've been through the program. And even though sometimes they are their professors, they can give a different background of, you weren't just a faculty member, you were a student here first. What was your experience like going from A to B?